we're in a situation that she just doesn't feel that spark. She hasn't made up her mind what she wants to do. She didn't come and say, I want you to leave, or I want to file for divorce. She's just as confused as it is anything else. She just doesn't know what to do because she wasn't going to sit in an unhappy marriage. She told me a month before I joined the program that there was no spark. And it took me off, and I didn't know what to do, was mopey, whiny, and just didn't know what to do. And so, as I said in my Facebook message, I happened to be scrolling past and listened to something that you had said, and it got to me like, well, if nothing else, this is something. If it's something that I can work on, and it sounded like some things that may have ruined some past relationships that I've had. And so what made me want to join the program was that you were truthful and forthright in saying that, you know, these are some things that are going to make you a little butthurt, but you got to get past it because it's the truth. And so when I heard that, it kind of hunkered me in, and then I listened to the rest of the video and just kind of sold me.
So what problem did you have that you wanted to solve by joining the program?
Initially, just get her back. I mean, we were thinking about couples counseling, but she had read that it's hard to find an unbiased one, and we don't have communication problems. Well, I should say, we don't have problems talking to each other. Going through some of that first week was really a big eye-opener to me, that we didn't talk. I have been much more stuck in my masculinity, that guys don't have feelings, suck it up and deal with it. And so when I got into it, I didn't know what problem I had, but it seemed like you were the right person to figure out where to start.
Appreciate that. So are you happy with the program itself?
Oh, immensely. I actually have my notebook here because I've been taking notes and trying to find things that I can take away from it, realize things that are misconceptions in television and movies and things that you might see on Facebook. You know, I've seen a lot of things that point out that what people put on Facebook is what they choose to put on Facebook. And it seems like until I got into this program, it was all just hearsay or noise. And then once I started actually listening and focusing on the program, it was, oh, yeah, you were doing those things.
Me personally? Yeah.
Yeah,
I definitely was. And you see, it's one thing, and if you don't mind me saying, I see a lot of guys in the program, or in the group itself, that are stuck in the learn mode. And it's one thing to be stuck in learn mode, and that's where I was for a long period of time. But you eventually have to live what you learn. In other words, apply what you learn in order to get the results, and then you have to go from learning it to living it to leading it. That's the ultimate maturity, if you would. So do you find yourself stuck in learn mode, or are you living it, or are you leading it? Where are you in that process?
What I find myself doing is in learn mode the first time, and then what I end up doing is coming back a couple of times later. Like 1 week I'll listen to it, go through the program, kind of write some things down in learn mode, and then I'll try to come back a second week later and kind of reassess and come through with different comments that I hadn't written down and try to do the live mode. I don't think I'm in the lead mode because I'm still living in the fear of not good enough. And I think that's where I kind of hit a wall, is that it doesn't matter if I learn this and she still doesn't like it, I don't think I can lead yet. And that's where I think I'm at.
What are you afraid of?
Really not being good enough. And honestly, that was another thing that stuck out in your initial video that I watched, was your pedestal talk, putting your wife on the pedestal.
Yep.
And that hit home so hard for me, because even when I talked to her about it, I sacrificed everything, whether she asked me to or not. I stopped going out with friends. I stopped doing things simply because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't the butt of everybody's bad husband comments. And even though she'd never asked me to. She never said that I had done anything wrong or even made comments about it. I kind of turned into a hermit in fear that she was going to leave me because I was a bad husband.
Right. Do you still have those fears now?
I have the fears that that she's too far gone, that connection's going to be hard because she's got the thoughts of, people grow separate and we don't have a lot of similar interests and people just grow apart. And so I have a fear that I can go through all these things and realize the things that I've done wrong and done different and not be able to communicate to her that I'm changing and that those changes are taking place before she says, you know what, yeah, I'm just done.
But she hasn't said that yet. She hasn't completely walked out yet.
No. The biggest hesitation that she has is because I'm going through the program and we have such an open contact with each other. I have all the notes that I have from the course, and then I have a list of questions that I ask her. And when we meet, she feels it's an interrogation. And for me, to your point about stuck in learn mode, I write all these questions down and I immediately want to ask her, like, hey, what is this? Like, how do you feel pressured by me? And just want to ask her all those questions, and she's stuck in, she doesn't have the same questions back. And so she just feels like she's sitting there waiting for questions.
Is she? Or do you just think that she is, and therefore you're fearful to even ask?
Before yesterday's lunch, I was fearful to even ask because I want to try to get that connection without interrogation. Because before I started the program, we had taken a trip to Black Hills, South Dakota to see, I was just trying to think of something, anything to try to spark something. And on the way home, we realized that there wasn't, no spark had happened. And so I started asking her a bunch of questions, and it felt like an interrogation to her. Mm-hmm. And so that was why I tried to be kind of reserved in the questions that I asked. But yesterday at lunch, we also talked about how we both kind of feel it's difficult right now because of the elephant in the room.
Which is?
That she doesn't know what she wants. She doesn't know if she wants to leave. She doesn't know if she wants to stay. And I think I didn't ask her yesterday, but I think she's stuck in a point where I was before I found this program of I'm not happy, but I don't know what to do.
Now, you jumped on Facebook here. You shot me a message and you asked me some questions. What were those questions and how can I help you answer them?
My biggest question is to make sure that I get everything I can, because I've heard you say it several times throughout the program that don't think this is not applicable to you. Or
yes.
Don't do this. And it seems like some of them are triggers. That's the big one that I have a hard time applying.
Are you insecure?
Yeah.
Why?
I have been previously.
Why?
I think it's just a fear of not being good enough.
Yeah, you mentioned that. Or unlovable. Is it because you were hurt by past relationships?
Yeah.
How many exes do you have?
I have, and that was one that actually stuck out too, is the relationship one. I don't remember what training it is, but I just passed it. I have 3 exes.
So you've dragged the baggage from those 3 exes into your current relationship. Yes. And it's starting to haunt you.
100%.
Okay. So you bring in your baggage, your wife brings in her baggage, and you guys make your own baggage together, compiled from your past. And so you guys are struggling with that. Does she trust you?
I think so. I haven't asked. That was one of the questions. It's one of the questions that I've written down is, do you trust me? Or is there things that make you question my trust or question your trust in me?
Did you ask that?
No, I didn't. That was like the next question after the "this feels like an interrogation" comment, so I just stopped because I didn't think that was you telling me it's an interrogation and I just keep going. Didn't seem like a productive conversation.
Well, if you just stop right away, then what are you doing? You're accomplishing nothing.
Okay.
So why do you just walk away when she says, "Well, this feels like an interrogation"?
To be honest, I think it comes back to the insecurity.
Exactly.
That if I piss her off, she's just going to go faster.
And you don't know that. You're assuming.
Right. Yep.
That's that fear of being unlovable kicking in. So week 1, you said it was a big eye-opener for you, and that was confidence versus overwhelm. If you're feeling like you're not lovable or you're not good enough, what are you doing to improve your confidence with yourself, with your situation, with your career, with your life in general? Are you doing anything?
Before? No.
And now?
Now I'm trying to be self-aware and more.
Hold on, let me stop you right there. Are you bringing any insecurities, or are you recognizing any of the insecurities that you've had with previous relationships into your marriage? Are you seeing patterns?
Yes, 100%.
Okay. How are those patterns impacting your marriage?
The biggest one was it's an insecurity even just in my understanding of a marriage. Not necessarily even what I realized was that my parents are divorced and my stepdad is kind of a pile. And so the insecurity that I have of nobody likes my stepdad except my mom was that my insecurity is that I'm going to be that person. And so I overcompensated and made sure that I, like I said earlier, sacrificed everything.
Who are you trying to prove that to?
Myself.
Okay. Does anybody else know that you have that fear?
They didn't before. I've talked to my wife about it now.
Okay. And what did she say?
At the time, she mostly just nodded. We were driving, and it was a long hour and a half drive back from the in-laws. And so I told her, I said, I want to talk through some of the things that I've already realized and things that I've noticed going through this program. And so I told her that a lot of my insecurity comes from my mom leaving my dad because he was lazy and kind of a slob, and then my stepdad being a slob and kind of lazy, as everybody else feeling like she should leave him. And so I think I never had expressed it to anybody other than myself that I'm going to do everything so she doesn't leave me.
Did you realize that before, or is this a realization that you had while you were going through the program?
Going through the program.
Okay. So you thought you understood her, so you were, I'm assuming, doing certain things that you thought she would like because you thought you understood her, but you didn't?
Right.
So
Yep.
you were making things worse.
I think especially when she says that there's not one event that's caused it, it definitely makes me realize going through all of this that my lack of communication and assuming what she wants has made it just slowly trickle away at he's doing things because he wants to do them, not because it's in our best interest, kind of loss of connection.
I see what you're saying. You thought you were leading the relationship, right? You thought that you were doing what you thought was best for the two of you, but she felt like you were just taking over, didn't get her input, didn't ask her for suggestions, and therefore she felt like you were overbearing, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't know if I heard it from you or somebody else, but we communicated our communication was task oriented, and it had been for probably the last 2 years since our son came.
You were good at running the business of a family, but not good at running the business of a relationship.
Yes.
Yep.
And we haven't done anything about us time. We've been really bad about that for most of our relationship.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it just got it got worse when I started never going out because I wanted to be home with our son so she could go out, and never putting any prioritization between us and me. It was my son and her. There was no, those were the two priorities, and that was it.
Right. Okay. Not bad priorities, but there's not much balance there either.
Right.
Okay. So, how has the program helped you to solve the problems that you've been having?
The biggest one is to stop trying to solve the problem. And I've heard you say it several times that it's a man's mentality to come in and say, there's a problem, I'm going to fix it.
Yes.
And I wrote down the analogy of the car.
Pushing the car?
Yeah.
Yep.
No, not pushing the car. The fixing the car. That there's a problem, you fix it. You know, if the starter's bad, you fix it, and that's how I've gone into relationships. And so I think I walked in and I said, okay, well, if she isn't yelling at me, she's getting to do the things that she wants to do, then there's no problem. And then if something arises, then I will address it then, instead of cultivating a relationship of openness, and if there's even small inconveniences, listening, hearing her, and not immediately going into, okay, I'm going to fix that.
Well, there's a difference between hearing and listening, and I know I've mentioned that in the program a few times. Yep. So hearing is a natural reaction. Listening is a learned skill. So you have to be in tune with hearing not just what she's saying, but listening to what she's saying, and therefore listening to understand her, not just to respond.
Yep. And that's something that it sucks to realize myself, because that's something I've taken into the business world. When I was a supervisor, I understood that you don't stand there and respond. But then it seemed like almost as soon as I got out of the office, my brain shut off as to where that goes.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately as I got home, it was, okay, I'm listening to hear you. That's it. Not listening to understand.
So do you feel like some of the issues that you've been having in the business world have been helped through the program too? Like, are you learning other things outside of within the program that you are applying outside of the relationship?
It's hard just because my job is very self-oriented, task-oriented. I work as an internal auditor, and so we work on a project and then get that project done and move on. So I haven't had the opportunity to, but I have been able to reflect and go, oh, that's something that I haven't been doing well, especially the energy and the drive to want to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
That has been the biggest thing for me, because it seemed like for a long time I just went to work, especially with the pandemic. I worked from home. So it was go to work, pick up the kid, or drop the kid off, go back home to work, pick up the kid, go back home, play with the kid, and go to bed.
Yep. It's a routine.
Right.
It becomes a routine, and you lose connection with your wife in that routine.
Mm-hmm.
You're not making time for the two of you to really connect, right?
Yep.
So where are you now in that process? How have things changed? Are you still stuck in that routine, or have things changed?
I feel much more of a drive to find those small times that I was just there, or not even there, just being, and utilize it for something. Whether it be, because there was a lot of times that I would just sit there and watch TV to zone out and not have to do anything. And I've started to find the small times that I can go out to the garage and fix something that's broken, or find time for a workout, or when I'm playing video games or watching TV, it's with somebody to try to, laugh together, play together, instead of just shutting my brain off and going, this is what it is, deal with it. I realized also that my wife and I's relationship is the big one that hurts and sucks the most, but I can feel that other ones were actually starting to
fall apart.
Lose them. Yeah.
Right. So do you feel like your wife was looking at your other relationships that you have in life and judging you based on how your other relationships were falling apart?
She definitely was looking at me as wanting to be a homebody. So the relationships that she saw were ones that were, she may not have noticed that they were falling apart, but definitely that they were becoming much more
distanced.
Yeah.
Yep.
And unenergetic. Like the only things that you were doing was, the only times you'd hang out together is with the kids. And the only energy that was there was the kids.
Yep. So you got stuck in that routine. Has that changed at all?
Yes.
What is it now? What's it like now?
I'm trying to set more me time and do things with friends that I want to, whereas before it was excusing my son and saying, no, I can't go out and go disc golfing because I got to watch my son, or anything like that. And now it's much more of a, well, here I actually know what my schedule is going to be. Let me pencil you in here so that way I can make sure that I prioritize our relationship as friends and figure out a way that I can make that happen.
Do you feel like she's looking at you and saying, why are you happier? What's going on? What changes have you made? And therefore she's feeling more attracted to you because you are making changes? Do you feel like that's happening or not?
I don't know if she's questioning it as much because we talk about it, but I think she is getting more attracted because she she'll start to hug me now. I mean,
that's great.
It feels like a real hug, not just I'm going to stand here while you wrap your arms around me.
Oh, so she's actually embracing the hug with you as well.
Right.
Awesome. One thing that I feel like a lot of men don't really understand is that the whole process of renewing a marriage is just that, a process. It's not a single event. And that's one of the biggest things that I really try to hammer home in the program is the fact that there are things that you have to do. There are processes that you have to go through to renew the relationship. It's not just one single event that's going to turn everything around. See what I'm saying?
Yep. And that's been hard for me. And I told her that also because I have this romanticized idea that it's just going to be one click thing and she's just going to say, yeah, let's come home, let's have sex, and it's going to be great. And
go back to the day that you got married kind of feeling, right? Nope. Yeah. It doesn't happen that way. Yep.
And so the biggest thing for me is just having the patience, knowing that
the dreaded P word.
Yeah.
Patience. A lot of men struggle with that.
It comes back to some of the things that you've said, that trust is something that's hard to build and relationships are hard to build, but they're really easy to lose.
Correct. So do you feel like you would recommend the Men's Marriage Mastery Program?
100%.
Why?
You is the bigger reason, but I think guys have a hard time hearing what needs to be heard. They want to be propped up just as much as women do, but in a different manner. And I think the fact that you come into it and you say, look, you're doing things wrong. There is something wrong with you just as much as there is with your wife. And that was something that when it first happened, I didn't tell anybody except I didn't tell anybody until the day that she said, maybe we should try a separation. And I told a really good friend of mine, the guy that I'm staying with on nights, and immediately he went into, I can't believe she's doing this to you, and you do everything for her and all these different things, and
you put her on a pedestal.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so the fact that you've acknowledged that, and it's I think I'm lucky that I realized that that's where I'm at and didn't combat that against, even though that's what you're saying and it's totally true. It was, your program gets you out of the mopey state, or at least it did for me, that look, there's some things that you got to fix, and it's not going to be coddling, and at least the self stuff, and I'm assuming the conversations you have with guys, it's not coddling, and it's not going to, well, how do you feel about that, or the stereotypical therapist kind of feel.
Right.
You've got some stuff, you're going to go through it, you're going to learn, but you've got to be able to live it, and you don't lock things when you're done, so you can go back and listen to them again, make sure you got out of it.
Yep. Well,
so I think the biggest reason I would recommend it is because it's truthful and it's full-hearted. It doesn't feel like you're just doing this to earn your hour, so to speak, in a couples therapy.
Right. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, that's one of the biggest values of the program is the fact that you can go back and re-listen to it. If you miss something, you can go back and re-listen to it and pick up some new bits of information that you can take and apply. And that's one of my personal issues that I have with traditional therapists and counselors is the fact that you cannot go back and pick up that information that the therapist talked about or mentioned because, it's not recorded. Mm-hmm. You can't just go back and say, what did she say or what did he say, and try to pick that back up. So you start to try to piece things in your mind, but you might not piece it together correctly because you didn't have the recordings of what was said and how it was said. So that's one of the biggest values of the program is that you can go back and re-listen to it at any time and pick up some information that you may have missed. And hell, I even listen to my own program every once in a while just to keep myself up to date and refreshed of the information that's in there. And so, yeah, that's a really good point there.
I've definitely tried to be more aware, and so there's times that I've wanted to do something and it's kind of just stop. And also, based on our relationship, I ask first. Like yesterday, I asked her if I could play with her hair while she just sat watching TV with her son. Instead of before, it would have been hanging all over her and cuddled up against her, whether she liked it or not, kind of.
But what did she say when you asked her if you could play with her hair?
She said sure, which is still...
That's better than a no.
Yeah.
So that's a step in the right direction, right?
Yep. It's a process, even though it's hard to accept.
There's a lot of men that would kill for an opportunity to be able to sit in the same room, much less play with their hair. So enjoy those moments. Don't take them for granted, and continue to build off of that positive connection that you're having with her. Do you feel like you are many steps ahead, or at least one step ahead of a lot of the guys in the group? And if so, how? Because you said that you were reading a lot of the comments in there.
Yeah. I don't want to say many steps ahead, just because you never know what somebody's going to do, and you never know what's going to be that light switch that finally kicks someone in the ass. And that's what it was for me, is just reading hearing you talk about the pedestal. That was the kick in the ass I needed, that, hey, dipshit, you're actually doing this. But I do feel I'm one step ahead on some of the guys, just because, and maybe it's a vulnerability to the group. They want to be in there and just be able to complain. But it's a very much a, what do I do? This is my wife. This is what she's doing. These things. And especially the guys that it doesn't sound like or seem like they're in the program.
They're not.
Are very,
they're not. And they're missing the boat, if you will.
Yeah, that's where I feel that I'm at least one step ahead of some of them, because they're just in that mopey, woe is me, and I'm going to work on myself. But as you've talked about exterior stuff, they're going to work out more. They're going to make sure that they're physically attracted to their wife. But then and that was one of the things that another reason I signed up for the program was, even if this doesn't work out, I can learn some things as to why it didn't work out. And even if I fix the overweight or not having that six-pack ab, if I get that again, there's still that problem that I'm going to fall back into putting her on a pedestal, whoever that next woman is, and fall into that woe is me and just bring everyone down with me, instead of trying to bring myself up and realize that I've done some things or haven't done some things that I could have done differently, as well as there are some things that she has done that I have just pushed aside because I was afraid that if she left, no one would love me anyway. So I'm going to I'll sacrifice for her, regardless what it costs me.
And you know, the funny thing is, too, I never even mention anything anywhere in the program about exercise or diet or working out or anything like that. This is all about what's between your ears and your chest, your heart and soul, and your perspective. So I don't work on the exterior, it's only about the interior. How are you becoming a better man on the inside so that you can project that out into the world, out into your relationship with your wife?
Yep.
And so that's, I think, one of the biggest points that I think some men miss is they think that a lot of the programs, these self-improvement programs, or however you want to define it, all these men's health programs, they feel like, if I just work out more, if I eat better, if I get more sleep, you do all these things on the outside, that everything will turn around. But in reality, it's exactly opposite.
Well, and that was one thing that, you haven't talked about it in your program, but it was something that was enlightening to me, is my wife and I don't have sex very often. And
Not yet.
Hopefully. Well, and in the, as you just talked about, immediately to me, it became a self-confidence issue of my body. And through your program, or through just listening and realizing that there's some things, it's like, well, maybe I just sucked at it, and I didn't have that connection with her because it was let's just do it and get out of on her side, let's just do it and get out of the way with, instead of creating a relationship in that. And it was,
a
for her, it was a
first.
chore.
Yeah. There's got to be a connection between you two first before the actual physical act of sex.
Yeah.
I think a lot of men feel like, if I just have sex, then I can help build that connection between me and my wife. Where in reality, once again, it's exactly opposite.
Mm-hmm.
In relationships, things are a little bit different than many other aspects of life. And it sounds like you finally realized that, like it's really clicked with you, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So do you have anything else that you want to say or anything you want to ask me? And then it sounds like you've got week 4 to go through, or at least week 5.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. Just, again, I wanted to thank you for your program is really good. And the
Thank you.
Your program isn't for me, it's not something that you're just going to sit there and go, oh, how does that make you feel? And what do you want to do differently? It's no, you got to think about this on your own, and don't look for me for self-gratification. You got to, one of the things I think I listened to yesterday was you have to have rewards and awards to work towards, instead of just in my eyes, your therapist sitting on the other side nodding his head and saying, yeah, that sounds good.
Yep. Is sometimes the little things that really keep you going. So those type of awards and rewards, whether they're rewards that you give to yourself or rewards that you get from your wife or even other people in your life, those are the little things in life that really keep you on track, that really give you the little spurts of motivation to keep going, to keep improving, and to not fall back into your old ways.
Yeah.
Have you been doing that? Not as much as you should.
Yeah. It's been a lot of, I have a hard time writing down my goals. That's been something that I listened to yesterday, and in that.
Well, I don't do goals in the program. You know that. I don't do, this is my goal, and this is what I'm going to check off today. We don't do goals. Remember that.
Right. But what you had commented is you need to have a goal. It doesn't necessarily mean program directed, but you have to have something to strive for.
Yes.
When I was in my routine, my striving was for Friday, so I made it to Friday. That's great. Well, what the hell does that do for you? Mm-hmm. So that's been something that I know I need to work on, and taking those rewards and awards and realizing them, instead of just saying, well, I don't know, I'd like to lose some weight. Okay, well, is there certain pounds that you'd like to get to, or what is that? Okay, when you get there, do I get a cheat day then, or even those small awards?
So. Yep, totally makes sense. I hear you loud and clear. Yes. I feel like you should do that more often. So, do you have anything else for me that you'd like to say or any questions for me? I know I've asked that a couple times already, but...
No, I think I'm good. I really appreciate you taking the time and talking me through it.
Cool. Well, you're very welcome. Like I say, if you need anything else, I mean, don't hesitate to reach out, and I'll definitely direct you and help you and guide you the best that I can.
Sounds good.
Awesome. So good luck with the dresser today. That's what you were working on, right? The dresser?
Yep.
So good luck with the dresser today, and I look forward to hearing more about your progress moving forward.
Sounds good. Thanks, sir.
You're very welcome. Have a good one. Talk to you later.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.